Have you ever had that magnetic instant pull to someone, like something just clicks and you feel like you've met your soulmate after just one interaction? But then as the relationship unfolds, things start to feel chaotic and you start to realize that you might be dating an avoidant. You're craving more closeness while they seem to be pulling away, and yet no matter how many times this pattern repeats, you can't seem to break free. If this sounds familiar and you're wondering why the hell are these two attachment styles attracted to each other when it causes so much pain, well, there's a reason why anxious and avoidant partners are drawn to each other over and over again. And in this episode, we are unpacking that. Why it happens, how to break free of the anxious avoidant dance, and if this dynamic can actually work. And spoiler alert, yes, it can. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Relationship Rehab Podcast. I'm Sammy, a certified breakup and relationship coach, attachment specialist, former love addict, and spiritual junkie. This podcast is for you, the hopeless romantic who loves to love, and a safe space for us to explore and heal our attachment trauma, broken hearts, and love addictions. Together, we are on a mission to become the love of our own lives, so we can have successful, healthy, secure relationships with others. So if you're ready to create a life and love beyond your wildest desires, you're in the right place. Your journey towards becoming more secure in love and life starts now. Hello, my beautiful secure lovers. Welcome back to the Relationship Rehab Podcast and channel. If you're new here, my name is Samantha, an attachment trauma specialist and relationship coach, helping you heal your anxious heart, stop attracting avoidant partners, and become more secure in your love life. Today's episode is one that I am surprised I have not recorded yet, and that is about the anxious avoidant trap or dance or patterns, whatever you call it, but the dynamic between these two attachment styles, because let's be honest, a lot of us here listening are finding ourselves on the anxious side and attracting avoidant partners, wondering why, what the hell is going on, how can I break free of this cycle, or if you have an avoidant partner, wondering if it can work. I'm sure you're in a space of feeling exhausted and maybe suffering a little bit in this dynamic, and you're here because you're wondering if this can actually work, if there's a future. And I'm going to explain a little bit about why I believe that is to be true and what needs to happen in order for that to become a realization for you. So strap in, this one is going to be good. And also just notice as we're going along, if anything is resonating, notice how it's making you feel in your body, and just take everything as information and lead with that curiosity. All right. So a lot of us have been in relationship with avoidance. We've been burnt by these relationships. We often go on journeys of becoming masters of understanding them. I know for me, when I was dating avoidance, I would just binge and consume all the content I could get my hands on about avoidant attachment, because I believed that the more that I understood them, the more I could make the relationship work with them. But what I didn't realize was the more I was trying to understand them, the more I was trying to change them, trying to fix them and manipulate them, and completely not realizing that I was missing a very important part, and that was understanding myself, understanding why I was in these types of dynamics, why they felt so amazing, whether I actually wanted to be in these dynamics, and how to break free of them. Now, I know a lot of us are wondering why we get in these relationships in the first place and why avoidant people tend to want relationships. There's a lot of bad chat and energy about people with an avoidant attachment because we've been burnt, wondering if they need so much freedom and so much space and they're so unavailable in this way, why the hell are they choosing me to be in a relationship with them? I totally get it. I totally understand when you feel angry and mad, but I just want us to take a second to realize, to show some compassion, that they are also human beings, traumatized human beings that are showing up in relationships with a deep fear of vulnerability, and they also have their work to do. I am not saying that they don't. I'm not saying that it's all on us and that we need to change ourselves. They also need to show up for themselves, for their partners, for their lives, if they want to have healthy relationships. But we cannot be that person to force them to do that. We cannot blame them or shame them into changing. And if they don't change, if you're in a relationship with an avoidant and they're not making changes, maybe they're making all the promises but the changes are not happening, it is not a reflection on you. It's also not a reflection on how much they may love you or care about you, but it is all a reflection of how ready, the capacity that they have for change, and if they really are intrinsically motivated to do so. A lot of us get externally motivated to change because we want something, especially when we are a high achiever or an anxious heart. We want that thing so badly that that external motivator will launch us into change. However, the more avoidant person are more likely to change when they are intrinsically motivated. And that means wanting to do the work for themselves. Again, doesn't mean anything about you or the relationship that you have. They just don't have the capacity. Maybe they're feeling very overwhelmed. Maybe they do have the belief that there's nothing wrong with them. Avoidant people can be in this space sometimes where they don't believe that they need to make changes, that actually it's you that needs to make all the changes. And again, if you're in this dynamic, just observe, get curious, and notice that all of the quote unquote blame and fault is being put on you, questioning if that is actually a healthy dynamic to be in. What I will say right off the bat, coming from personal experience and working with many anxiously attached clients in connections and relationships with avoidance, is for as long as you remain anxiously attached, unfortunately, you will always be attracted and unconsciously choose these avoidant partners, and you will be repelled by more healthy and secure partners, or quote unquote nice guys and gals, because of what I am about to explain in this episode. And what you might find as well on your healing journey, maybe you do identify more in the secure attachment realm, which is amazing. And you might still feel those flutters towards avoidant people. I've had this experience not long ago when I came face to face with a classic avoidant man. I am in a relationship, so nothing happened romantically at all. But what was interesting was to observe what was happening in my attachment system. I do very much believe I'm in a far better, secure, and healthier space now. So I was able to recognize it, I was able to observe it, and I was not acting on it. But yes, my inner anxious girly, she perked up when she could see that these avoidant tendencies were coming from this guy. And it was just such an interesting experience to have. Absolutely nothing happened except conversations and chats. And I even said to him, before, years ago, I was extremely anxiously attached, and someone like you would have just completely triggered me into infatuation and obsession, and we had a good laugh about it. But yes, this dynamic is very magnetic. Before we get into the nitty-gritty details, if you are unsure about your attachment style, if you don't know if you're anxious or avoidant or fearful avoidant, maybe a mixture of both, and you want to have some more insights, information on your attachment style, maybe your partner's attachment style, you can take the quiz together. I have a relationship archetype quiz that is going to tell you more about your attachment style, going to give you more clarity and information about what's happening in your attachment system if you are more anxious or avoidant or even fearful avoidant. So go ahead and take that relationship archetype quiz to find out more about that. All right, guys, let me set the scene based off of a personal experience of mine that has been echoed in a lot of clients and audience members of mine as well when it comes to this anxious and avoidant relationship. What typically happens, first of all, is like there's this instant attraction, like this initial spark or explosion when you first come into contact with this anxious or avoidant partner. It's like you are completely drawn to them, like there's something pulling you towards them, and you seem to have found your other half, that this is your missing piece, that your soulmate. You seem to just connect so deeply, very, very quickly. And I have found myself, and my friends and clients have found themselves saying, I think I just found my person. I think I just found my future husband. I think I just found the partner that I'm going to be with for the rest of my life. And in the moment, it can seem so rare. It can seem so special. There's so much chemistry happening. There's so many chemicals going on in our systems, of serotonin, of dopamine, of cortisol as well, that is completely flooding our system and sending those signals that we have found something. We have been attracted to something that feels familiar, that echoes our experiences from childhood. And what's happening for both of these people is the anxious is attracted to the avoidance, seemingly complementary qualities of being grounded, of being stable, of being confident, of being independent. They're very much logical thinkers and they can hold their own. Now, these are all qualities that the anxious partner craves within them. And it's the same for the avoidant. When the avoidant is attracted to the anxious, what he sees is someone who is deep, expressive, warm, nurturing, caring, all the qualities that the avoidant secretly longs for. This is why we feel like we have found our other half. This is where the term the other half has come from. And it's also interesting to note as well that the qualities that we're attracted to can echo our parents, the qualities that we have in our parents. So sometimes, and again, this is just all an invitation for you to be curious and to observe, are the patterns that you're attracting in your partners echoing the qualities of your father or your mother? If you had a very seemingly stable, put together, confident father, you might be attracted to that in the avoidant initially, what they're showing you. If the avoidant man had quite an anxiously attached mother who was very nurturing, very caring, very self-sacrificing, they are going to be subconsciously attracted to that in the woman. So then our subconscious systems, both the nervous system and the subconscious mind, will then make a connection of thinking that this is love. This is why we feel like we're head over heels in love. We're completely in love and obsessed and infatuated by this person, because the internal connection is being made in our neuron. And it's like, yep, this is it. This is what love feels like. This is the person for us. And this is why we then feel this deep attraction and explosions around this person. Like these fireworks are just popping off. So that is quote unquote the honeymoon phase, where we might start to completely lose ourselves in this relationship. We might be cancelling plans. We might not be so focused on our work. We might be feeling deeply anxious when we don't hear from this person, because how could we have ever imagined a life or a world without this person? They have become our world. And now we are really leaning in and really wanting this connection to work and fantasizing and having visions of where this can go. We're in this complete bubble of quote unquote love, but what it is obsession, it's fantasy, it's anxiety. The avoidant, on the other hand, is also maybe in that space of being excited to meet someone that they are having this attraction to. They are putting their best foot forward. In the moment, right now, while it's still in the dating phase, for them, it still feels safe. It still feels like they can give all of themselves and not have to commit and not have to be too vulnerable and not have to sacrifice their freedom or anything like that, because it's still in the dating phase, so they can fully show up as their best self. However, what typically happens when things start to develop and things start to get serious between the anxious and the avoidant, the cycle of push and pull begins. The dance will start to begin. So maybe the Anxious is leaning into wanting to commit, wanting this relationship to progress. Of course, that's what you deserve, is to have a relationship that progresses and to have someone who is willing and ready to commit to you. You're going to go in that direction. Maybe there is a lot of intensity there, though. Maybe there's a lot of pressure, and maybe not. Doesn't matter. The avoidant, on the other hand, will feel that the relationship is getting more serious, regardless of the amount of pressure being put on. They're going to feel it. So you could do everything, quote unquote, right and secure, and the avoidant will still feel this pressure to commit, this fear to commit. And they will have those beliefs that a relationship requires vulnerability. And am I ready for that? Do I have the capacity for that? So as the relationship unfolds, we may start to experience the avoidant person starting to pull away. I don't know about this. I'm not sure about this. I'm starting to feel a little bit trapped, a little bit suffocated. They want more from me. Am I going to lose my freedom? And as the anxious person is starting to experience the avoidant pulling away and creating some distance, they will then lean in. Their fear of abandonment will start to kick in. Oh my gosh, I can't lose this person. Let me do all that I can to try and fix it, to try and get it back. Let me bombard them with phone calls and love and affection. Let me pull away and act cool, and they will start to come back in, and I will lean in again. And this dance of leaning in and leaning out, this energetic flow will start to happen. And my God, is it exhausting to be in this dance? And everything just feels really tough and hard. But that is the dynamic of the anxious and the avoidant. The more the anxious clings and changes part of themselves, or want that avoidant person to change part of themselves, the avoidant will start to pull away. And this cycle is what creates this addictive, high intensity dynamic that feels like love, but it's actually your nervous system being in complete dysregulation. So why does this cycle continue? Let me open the box a little bit to what is going on beneath all of this behavior for both partners. So let's be honest, at any point in this cycle, in this dance, a more securely attached person would have left, regardless of whether they're dating the anxious or the avoidant. They wouldn't put up with the avoidant pulling away and not communicating, because they know that they're worthy of someone showing up for them. So they would have ended it. They would have had those conversations with a more anxiously attached person. Okay, you're engulfing my life a little bit. This feels a little bit suffocating. I need us to go at a slower pace. Blah, blah, blah. So the secure person would have acted accordingly. However, the more anxious and the avoidant person would be stuck in these cycles. And this is maybe where you're at right now, getting stuck in these patterns, stuck in these cycles, and not being able to leave or address any of the chaos that is going on, because maybe you don't know what's going on. Let me give you some insights. So the anxious person will stay in this cycle because they believe that love means to chase, prove my worth, accept those breadcrumbs. Maybe you've had childhood experiences where your parents have been physically or emotionally unavailable, and every time that they gave you some love or affection, it just felt so good. This is where the term breadcrumbing comes from. Maybe if we were breadcrumbed in our childhood, this is what we have become accustomed to. When we are an anxious child, regardless of what's happening with our parents, we are learning in those moments and being conditioned to be more attuned to their needs in order, rather than being attuned to ours. And everything that we adopt as children is to protect the attachment that we have with our parent. So if disregarding our needs, if not speaking up, if not being ourselves mean that we get to protect the relationship with our parent, then so be it. We're going to do it, because that is a matter of survival when you're a child, biologically speaking, is to protect the attachment. The same for the avoidant. If they have had experiences where they have been dismissed in some way, they have been humiliated for having emotions, they've had love withdrawn, their conditioning will then go down the path of, well, love it cannot be trusted. I cannot trust that my parent is going to show up for me. Vulnerability is scary because I have been ridiculed and humiliated in the past. And if someone gets too close, especially children who have had parents that have relied on them or depended on them, so they've had to grow up quicker than they needed to, then they are going to subconsciously attract love that feels like they need to lose themselves. That getting hurt or being abandoned is what it means to be in a relationship. So I must protect myself from that. It doesn't feel safe to be so close to somebody, and they have this fear of intimacy because it may mean that it leads to abandonment, to getting hurt. And they have then developed coping mechanisms as children that they can only depend on themselves, that I cannot depend on anyone around me to get my needs met. It actually feels very uncomfortable to get my needs met. I don't know how to express them because I've only ever met them for myself. So when we're pressurizing our avoidant partners to communicate, to be vulnerable, to tell me what you need, what you want, and it's like, whoa, I don't even know. And that's where the avoidant work begins, is starting to get attuned, also with the anxious, to start to get attuned to your needs. That misattunement has happened in childhood for both attachment styles. And on another level as well, I believe that these people are attracting each other because they want to repeat past experiences and have a different outcome. So, for example, if we have had an avoidant father, an emotionally unavailable father that was not physically present, emotionally present, we didn't get our needs met in some way, and it's caused a lot of pain for us as children, we will subconsciously attract somebody who represents that parent figure, and we will try to fix them because we couldn't fix our parent in the past. We will try to change the dynamic so we can heal that past pain within us. But unfortunately, without two people doing the work, it actually ends up re-traumatizing us. And this is why we can feel like we're being traumatized in our relationships, because they are repeating and replaying past experiences that we've already been traumatized from. And we're playing that record player over and over again. And this is why we would continue to attract these people, is because we still haven't implemented the lessons or healed those attachment wounds, those fears from our past, from the previous experience that we have been invited to do so. So this is why we can feel so at home with the opposite dynamic, and why we have things that we say now in today's society like opposites attract, my other half, my significant other, because it really does feel like the yin and yang, like this is the missing piece of my puzzle. And it can feel so exciting but also very triggering as well. And until these polar opposites heal their insecure attachments, they forever will feel like magnets for each other. And secure people will always feel like they are boring, or that there's nothing there, there's no spark, there's no chemistry, because there's nothing there to trigger your attachment system into thinking that we have found love. Secure relationships in this space does not feel familiar, doesn't feel excited, there's no energetic attraction. So in regards to the question, can this type of relationship work between an anxious and avoidant? So maybe you're here for those answers, like I am more anxiously attached, my partner is avoidant. There is a lot happening, a lot of chaos for both of us, internally, externally. We're not able to communicate, like there's no boundaries. There's just a whole lot of stuff going on. And we want to know if this is worth saving, if this is worth working on. And the answer is yes, but only if both partners are willing to heal. If you're finding yourself in a dynamic where you are more than willing to make changes, to heal attachment wounds, to learn how to communicate consciously and set boundaries and be in a healthy dynamic, if you're there, but they're not, no matter how much work you do on yourself, you are still going to feel unfulfilled. The relationship is still going to feel one-sided. And like I said at the beginning, we cannot coerce or force or manipulate or threaten anybody into change. We might find ourselves saying things like, if you really loved me, you would do this. You would come to relationship counseling with me. And then the avoidant will retract even more because now they feel like you're trying to change them, which is one of their core wounds. Something they've experienced in their childhoods, that they didn't feel good enough as themselves and things needed to change, and they were forced to change parts of themselves, hide parts of themselves. They're completely disconnected from their emotions and their experiences because of this. So if you are in a dynamic with one partner not willing to do the work, they don't really see that anything needs to be repaired or anything needs to change, but you are feeling unsatisfied. The danger of that, which I also see, is complete self-abandonment. Okay, well, maybe I'll just accept it then. I'll just accept that this is what it is. I don't want to lose this person. And as long as we have love, we can tackle anything. So let me just completely abandon what I need and what I deserve and what I want and desire just to continue keeping this connection with this person. And again, we're retracting back to that childlike self where we so badly want to keep this relationship, this attachment connected, that we will abandon parts of ourselves. And in time, this will build up a lot of resentment, a lot of disconnection. I came out of an abusive relationship of 8 years because I did this. I did this pattern of completely self-abandoning myself just so I could stay in the relationship with this person. And when I came out of it, and even towards the end, I was trapped. I was completely trapped because I had lost all connection to myself. I had lost my self-worth. I had lost my sense of self. I didn't know who I was without this person. I had become completely enmeshed in him. I became a version of him. And it was such a painful healing journey from that space. One that has been completely life-changing. Don't get me wrong, I am here today because of that relationship, but I wouldn't wish it on anybody. And I'm also here to be able to support people to not be in that space. And it's because I self-abandoned and I self-sacrificed and I accepted that this is it. And I don't deserve anything more than this. And it led to very abusive patterns. So just some advice there, take it or leave it. You're here to collect information. And of course, if you feel like you need to give it time, if this person needs some time to come to a realization that changes need to be made, but if you feel like you have given it enough time, there needs to be a timeline, otherwise it will go on forever for this person to get themselves to the space where they believe that the relationship needs work, can be worked on. Now, let's say both partners are willing to do the work, really willing, authentically willing, not feeling like they're forced in any way. This is great news, amazing, amazing news. And I do believe that these types of dynamics, I am in one myself, where, we both didn't start out naturally secure. We work towards secure attachment or insecure attachment. And these types of dynamics can be the best because you still have the excitement and the chemistry of the insecure attachment wounds coming together, and we have supported each other to heal them as well. We have really created a secure foundation, secure environment, quote, aka the relationship, for us both to continue our healing, for us both to continue embodying what it means to be a healthy partner. It's a very profound place to be in because there's just so much growth happening. There's so much mirroring and there's so much connection and intimacy that can be taken from this space as well. So this is where to begin if you are in this space. The more anxiously attached individual, where you need to begin is to start to practice this self-regulation, because when we're in a state of dysregulation, what we normally do is turn to our partner and look to them to soothe us in some way. Maybe we're looking at them as the cause of our dysregulation, and we're like, you need to now fix my emotions. You need to be everything that I need in order to feel okay again. Or maybe we're not even asking them to be that person, and we're just in this state of dysregulation without even communicating it. So by being able to self-soothe our emotions and connect to that inner child self within us who's feeling like she's going to be abandoned or rejected, that she's not worthy, that she's not good enough, and we learn those somatic practices to be able to calm anxiety, to be able to stay grounded and calm. So when we are faced in our relationship with things like conflict arising or our partner creating distance, we're not becoming absolutely engulfed and drowning in our heavy, overwhelming emotions, that we're able to tackle these challenging scenarios from a place of being grounded. Another element of work for the anxious is building self-trust. So important. This is being completely disrupted from our childhood, that we no longer feel like we can trust our experiences, our emotions, our needs, our opinions, our authenticity, all because somewhere down the line we have been rejected or abandonment for doing so. So we need to start to learn to trust ourselves again, especially if you're observing that there is a trust issue in the relationship with others. Starts with ourselves, starts with building that self-trust. And the way that you can do that is to start small with the decisions that you're making. Being able to hold space and validate your experiences and your emotions, because it's the inner child that doesn't trust that the adult self part of you is going to show up. Maybe you have abandoned yourself in the past, just like myself, just like me. And I had to really regain the trust of my inner child again, that I'm going to have your back, that I'm going to make decisions that are right for you. And they may not be the easiest or the most comfortable ones, but you can trust me again. How can you start to build up that trust in yourself? And for me, it was just giving space for my emotions, that I am not going anywhere. When we have a fear of abandonment and we abandon ourselves, we're telling ourselves that we are not worthy of that space. Tell yourself that you're not going anywhere, and you can trust that you're going to show up for you. And then we can start to trust that others are going to show up for us. And then the third main one, and this is just an overview of some of the more common ones that I have found with my anxiously attached client, is boundaries. Starting to get reacquainted, because we did used to have boundaries in our childhood, but for some reason we have been shamed for having them, we have been told not to have them, we've been punished for having them, or we have completely disregarded our boundaries because that meant disconnection. We need to get reattuned to our boundaries again. And this can start with setting small incremental boundaries with ourselves if others feels just too triggering too soon. A really easy one that I think a lot of us is going to resonate with is the boundary that we have with our phone. I'm sure, just like a lot of us here, we're spending hours doom scrolling on social media. We're looking on our phone, we're checking our phone. Maybe we can start our boundary work there, where we set a personal boundary with our phone, and just notice how it makes you feel to set that boundary. If our boundaries are very weak or non-existent and easily breakable, then some deeper work needs to happen. Or maybe you feel empowered and that really ignites you to start setting more firm boundaries, more solid boundaries, bigger boundaries with other people, saying no and protecting your time and energy in this way. So self-regulation, self-trust, and boundaries are the three main pillars of healing for the anxiously attached, amongst a lot of others like communicating and inner child work, being attuned to your needs. Okay, so the avoidantly attached individual, where they can start their healing journey, is that they need to learn how to stay present. When something feels very scary or vulnerable, they tend to disassociate. They tend to go into that flight mode and want to move away from the situation as fast as possible. I want to challenge you, if you're here and you're more avoidantly attached, is to see if you can stay in the discomfort. Of course, if it's abusive in some way, of course you need to protect yourself. But if you have that discernment that, okay, I'm not in an abusive situation here, just an uncomfortable one, I want to see if you can stay in that discomfort and just notice how it makes you feel. If you feel like you're disassociating, see if you can communicate as best as you can. Another thing that I observe in the more avoidantly attached is they don't have the words to communicate how they're feeling because the connection has been disrupted from childhood. Build up your vocabulary. Download a feelings wheel. There's so many on the internet, and I give this to all of my clients. This is a really great practice to start to build up your vocabulary around your emotions and around your feelings. So you can just start small, and you could even just say, I feel uncomfortable. When I'm in this space with you, I feel uncomfortable. Maybe that's where you begin. And then if your partner is also doing the work and is also working towards that secure attachment, you both as partners in that relationship can create a safe space to not take things personally and to really be observant to what's happening in your body. Okay, you're feeling uncomfortable. Where are you feeling it? What does it mean for you to feel uncomfortable? What do you feel like you want to do? I want to run away. Okay, well, I'm really glad that you're not. I'm really glad that you're staying with me right now. So I think both partners need to make a commitment to each other to create a safe space for each other to be present, to be regulated, to be able to build self-trust, to be able to communicate, and to be able to build these secure behaviors, create that safety in a relationship. Because when we go into this fight or flight or fawn or freeze states of dysregulation, it's because something is not feeling safe. So asking each other, asking yourself, how can we create more safety for each other? What would make you feel more safe? And even if you're asking this of yourself, as you're getting back into the dating pool as an anxious girly, what can create more safety for me? And show up for yourself. This is what builds self-trust. Putting boundaries in place. I want to feel as safe as possible because I know when I feel as safe as possible, I can be my best self. I can be my authentic self. I can stay grounded when I'm safe. All comes back to that safety element. So what we typically find when the anxious and the avoidant begin to heal, not only do they create safety, but they actually balance each other out in such a beautiful way instead of triggering old wounds. So now we're melting into this safe environment that we're creating for each other. And I'm observing, when I observe my partner who is more on the fearful avoidant state and how he responds to my emotions, it's so beautiful now. They don't challenge him, they don't frighten him, because he knows that they are my experiences and he can show up for me in the most beautiful way, holding space. And I also really value how he, in his avoidance space, goes into the logic. Maybe I have to ask him to postpone it for a while. I just need you to be with me. I just need you to hold me or to hold that space. But I really do appreciate when he is able to pull me out of it, because I can stew in it a little longer than I want to. And it's like, okay, let's think of solutions. What is the solution here? So we can balance each other out here. And on the other hand, I invite him to be more explorative with his emotions. Before, on his own, he wouldn't. But now he's observing me in this very deep and emotional space. It encourages him to get more attuned to his emotions as well. So you can see how these dynamics can create such an incredible, beautiful, challenging, growing relationship. And I want that for you as well, whether you have that with someone who is healing their anxious, avoidant, or fearful avoidant attachment style, or someone who is more naturally secure. As long as you are on that healing journey, anything and everything is so incredibly beautiful. So I just want to summarize this episode with some key points on how we can start to break the cycle. And breaking the cycle meaning you choosing to leave the cycle, or both partners choosing to leave the cycle and create a secure foundation. So like I said, awareness really is first and foremost the biggest and most important step. Being aware and conscious of each other's patterns, of your patterns, understanding what's happening in the dynamic, understanding what's happening with you, your partner understanding what's happening with them, so you don't mistake it for love. You don't mistake it for trauma bonding. That I'm aware of what's happening here in this dynamic where I'm anxious, you're avoidant, and we're getting into this. Let me make a choice here of whether this is a good choice for me, whether this is going to empower me, whether this is going to serve me. And also inviting in that compassion, having compassion for yourself and your patterns and your decisions, the past ones or the present ones that are reflecting the past ones, coming back to that sense of compassion, knowing that there's nothing wrong with you. Every time we observe ourselves in an emotional reaction or a default behavior, coping mechanism, it's because once upon a time it served us. We now know it's no longer serving us, and we're putting things in place to be able to disrupt those patterns, to heal those wounds, and for us to relearn, reparent, reprogram all those beliefs and dynamics within us. Another huge one, huge one, is learning to rewire your nervous system. Learning to come away from those fight, flight, fight, and fawn states of dysregulation and staying present, living in the grounded, calm, regulated, parasympathetic nervous system. So you can feel more alive, you can feel more present. And this is not just in your relationships, but in your life. When we are in a space of being chronically anxious or worried or fearful, living in the past, living in the future, we're not living in the present. We're not getting the most of what we can get out of our lives and our relationships. This is huge, guys. If you take anything from this episode, it is to start to understand your nervous system. If this is all brand new to you, you don't even know what a nervous system is, I encourage you to find my Anxious to Anchored Masterclass. This is going to give you the foundational information about what your nervous system looks like, and what the nervous system states look like, and how to start that journey of regulation. The link is in the show notes below as well, if that's where you feel like you're at. And then as we start to regulate more and more, we will start to notice that these types of dynamics of the anxious avoidant is going to almost feel dysregulating. And we have done far too much work on keeping our peace, keeping our calm, for someone's son to come on in, or someone's daughter to come on in and disrupt that. We value it far too much. And now we are going to be repelled by these dynamics, or instead of being infused by them and attracted to them. Safe and secure relationships, and I'm involving people on their healing journey as well, are going to start to feel exciting because you're going to value safety, you're going to value growth. It's not going to feel boring anymore. You're not going to want to be triggered in the same way anymore. You are understanding that actually my perception of what I believe love is supposed to feel like is distorted from my experiences and maybe the Disney movies that I consumed as a child. Actually, the type of love that I want to receive and attract in my life feels safe. It feels like a space where I can be completely myself. It feels like a space where I can grow and I can be my best self. I have that someone who's able to be that wind beneath my wings. Oh, how exciting. But we're not going to be subconsciously attracted to that until we move away from the anxious and avoidant attachment wounds. So you don't have to stay in these cycles forever. This is the great news, right? So the good news is you do not have to stay stuck in these cycles forever. Maybe you feel like you are. Maybe you feel like there's no hope. I'm here to tell you that there is hope that you can heal and move away from these dynamics, because love isn't supposed to feel like this never-ending chase. And the more secure you become within yourself, the more you'll attract relationships and people that feel safe, that feel fulfilling and truly intimate. People who really are willing to put in the work and have the capacity to do so without the ups and downs, without the emotional roller coaster that you have become accustomed to. So whether you're in this dynamic right now, or you're trying to break free, or you're on a healing journey together, just know healing is possible for you. I once upon a time didn't think so either. And I was with partners that were not willing to meet me there. And I really had to make that tough decision to let go and do the healing work with myself, by myself, with a coach, with a therapist, if that's where you feel like you need to be. Secure love really is waiting for you on the other side. Now, if you feel like you're in this space where you want to be able to do the work, everything that I've spoke of in today's episode all feels great. I've been reading and collecting all this knowledge and information, and now I just need some support embodying it. I want to embody what it really means and feels like to be securely attached, because it sounds great, and believe me, it is. Then I do have my Securely Attached program opening in April. So you can join the waitlist to be the first to know, and you can click the link in the show notes to get more information about what this program is. I won't go into too much details. I would love to invite you to just click the link and see for yourself if this program is that program that you have been looking for. If I am the coach for you to really walk this journey with you, and I would be absolutely honored to do so. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out and let me know what you think about this episode anyway. You know, I always love to hear from you guys and be able to hear what your biggest breakthroughs were, what your biggest takeaways are. And if you do need any further support in breaking these dynamics, I also have my one-on-one coaching program as well, if you do want a more intimate experience with yourself, with your partner. So many options. If you do feel like you just need that little bit more support, that you've been trying to do this on your own and little progress has been made, and I want to celebrate that, but you know that you want to do more, you want to be more, you are made for more. I invite you to just reach out to me, and we can just start by having a conversation. All right, my loves, this has been a powerful episode. We've really uncovered what's happening for both anxious and avoidant people when they're in these dynamics. And as always, take this as information to get curious about yourself and your love life and your relationships. But I really do hope that it has served you and that it's supported you. As always, if you need further information and support, the links are in the show notes below. And until next time, I would love for you to join me on the next episode of the Relationship Rehab podcast. Bye for now. Thank you so much for joining me on the Relationship Rehab podcast. I hope that this episode has supported you in healing, growing, and evolving out of insecure attachment and unhealthy relationship patterns and into safe, authentic love with yourself and others. If you enjoyed the episode, it would mean the absolute world to me if you would just take a second to rate and review this podcast. Every rating and review from you guys counts, as it really helps this podcast to grow so it can reach more people who need to hear this content. And don't forget to connect with me on social media. Take a screenshot of this podcast episode, share it on your IG stories, and tag me at the.relationship.rehab with your biggest takeaway from the episode. I really do love reading them. See you back here next week for another episode on the Relationship Rehab podcast.